All rise. The Second Judicial District Court of the State of Nevada is now in session. The Honorable Kathleen Sigurdson presiding.
Good morning. Please be seated. All right. Mr. Busby, let's start with you, sir.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm hearing for Robert Conrad, Luke Busby, and joined by Mr. Conrad himself.
And Lindsay, Liddel, Deputy District Attorney on behalf of Washoe County.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Busby, let's start off.
Okay, Your Honor, I believe there's two issues that the court asked us to address today. I'd like to briefly address the second issue if I could.
That's fine. However you want to start. That's absolutely fine.
So, as of right now, there are no outstanding petitions that affect this case.
Yes.
There was an erroneous filing at the Supreme Court by our Nevada judges, who I represent, which accidentally put this case number in the caption. That triggered the Supreme Court to notify this court of a pending writ petition. We subsequently filed an errata with this court and the Supreme Court clarifying that that case, not seeking review of anything in this case. So our understanding, there's no outstanding writ petitions before the court on this case at this time.
That would be my understanding as well, Mr. Busby. Thank you.
Turning to the first issue, whether or not Dr. Conrad has standing, Dr. Conrad made a public records request under NRS 239.111. I'm sorry, 239.011. And this court, we believe, should proceed to the merits of the claim against Washoe County for denying and unreasonably delaying access to the records sought by Dr. Conrad. Dr. Conrad is a journalist who operates This Is Reno.com, which is a community-focused news outlet. On October 19th, he submitted a public records request seeking body-worn camera footage, audio, and catalogs, records related to an alleged incident involving Reno City Manager Doug Thornton. This is a matter of significant public interest, we'll argue. And the county denied access to the footage and only provided heavily redacted reports. We filed this action on January 30th, 2024, as expressly authorized by NRS 239.0111, which states that any person whose public records request is denied or unreasonably delayed may apply to this court for relief. The county challenges Dr. Conrad's standing, arguing that the use of the doing business as designation, This Is Reno.com, the case caption violates NRS 602.070. There's no record of his registration of that until October 24th of 2024. And we think this argument is a distraction. Dr. Conrad brought this in his individual capacity as a person under NRS 239.001, not as a business entity. The DBA designation is really surplusage. That's how these cases have been filed for years now. We've had several of them. His testimony will show all the records requested issued were made in his name using his email as contact method, and NRS 239.0012 mandates that the NPRA be construed liberally to foster democratic principles, ensuring public access to government records. And the county's technical argument under 602, which is really a statute designed to protect people in commercial situations from fraud, where an action is brought entirely in the name of a DBA that doesn't exist for purposes of fraud or something like that. If you're conducting business under a DBA without proper authorization for the purpose of fraud, the court should void those cases. And that rule is pretty obvious and self-evident. The cases we provided in our briefing, I think, illustrate that point. Even if there is a procedural defect in how the case was captioned, Rule of Civil Procedure 17A3 prohibits dismissal for failure to prosecute in the name of a real party of interest until a reasonable time has been allowed for ratification, joinder, or substitution. And if the court thinks this is an issue, a standing issue, we would seek leave to amend under Rule 15 as justice so requires, which Nevada courts grant liberally under Nutton v. Sutton. And today, Dr. Conrad can testify as to the facts, the history of this case, what he does, who he is, etc. If I could please the court.
Thank you very much. I'm going to make you make that choice whether to have him testify or not. It is your case.
Okay, Dr. Conrad, I'd like to call Dr. Conrad.
Thank you.
Here.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Your Honor, we've submitted exhibits 1 through 8. Petitioners submitted exhibits 1 through 6, and the county has submitted exhibits 7 and 8. And I believe we've reached an agreement that all those documents be admitted into the record. We've stipulated to that fact.
Are we submitting to the
That's
motion?
correct, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. With that, I do have a copy in front of me, sir.
That should save us a lot of time.
Yes, it will.
Okay. Dr. Conrad, could you please state your full name for the record?
Robert A. Conrad,
Okay, and where do you reside?
Reno.
And what's your profession?
I am a half-time employee at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I run This Is Reno almost full-time basis.
Okay, so what type of, you're a professor at UNR?
Part-time instructor,
Okay, and what do you teach?
agricultural and environmental communications.
Okay.
I run a minor sequence.
Okay, is that taught within the rubric of the journalism school?
It is not,
Okay.
but it is a journalism-based program.
Okay, and you mentioned This Is Reno. What is This Is Reno?
This Is Reno is an online award-winning independent community news website.
Okay, and when did you start This Is Reno?
This Is Reno started in August of 2009. It was a volunteer-run effort for the first approximately 5 or so years, up until, I want to say, maybe about 2012 or 13. We had to start to monetize it for a variety of reasons, but yeah, it started in 2009.
Okay, and This Is Reno is a news outlet, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what type of things does This Is Reno cover?
Food reviews, theater reviews, music shows, investigative journalism, local government, school board and educational issues. We also, because we're a community-focused site, we run a lot of citizen opinion columns or submissions. We also do some regional reporting with the Nevada Current, and we have a writer in Fallon who submits or files stories with us as well.
Okay, if I may have exhibits, I'd like to ask some questions,
Yes.
if I may approach.
Yes, you may have, and I think I have the marked exhibits in front of me.
Do you mind if I?
I don't mind.
All right, Dr. Conrad, I'm going to go ahead and hand you all of these and ask you some questions about them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, Dr. Conrad, could you please take a look at what's been marked as exhibit number 4?
Yes. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct.
Okay. Can you describe what this is?
This is our trademark, looks like information that we initially filed in 2016.
Okay. And so what organization is this a trademark for?
For This Is Reno.
Okay. So why did you adopt this trademark?
Yeah, so what was happening about then was we were getting imposter or fake accounts set up on social media using our name and likeness. And in order for us to have any teeth in getting those removed from these social networks, which, by the way, that is actually can be a very difficult process. So we had to demonstrate that we own the trademark to this name, and that's helped sort of solidify our ability to get these fake accounts taken down.
So did you have a separate company at the time you asked for this trademark?
My company name is Conrad Communications. It's an LLC or S Corp.
Okay. Is that the company which under which you file all your regulatory paperwork?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like you to take a look at exhibit 3 if you could.
Yes. Okay.
Do you recognize this?
I do,
Okay. What is
and
it?
it's still not correct, but yes, I recognize this.
Okay. What is it?
This is my City of Reno business license that I recently renewed.
Okay. And it says expires there on 2/28/2025, is that correct?
Yes, sorry, let me step back. I recognize this not as my recently renewed business license, but I'm guessing the one from a year ago.
Okay. Do you know what's different between this license and the recently renewed one?
Well, the address should be correct, but I don't even think my new one has been corrected by the city. I've been asking for multiple months.
Okay, and what correction did you receive?
Address,
Okay, anything else?
I'm unaware.
The DBA designation?
Oh, yeah, possibly. I'm not sure what that would have been filed under this year.
Okay. All right. So, can you describe the relationship between This Is Reno and Conrad Communications LLC?
Yeah, it's a publication that I run under the LLC.
All right. And I'd like to turn to exhibit number 5, if you could.
Okay.
Do you recognize this, Dr. Conrad?
Yes.
And just for clarification, if you want to call me doctor, can you describe your educational background briefly for the court?
Yes, I have a doctorate of educational leadership from the University of Nevada, Reno.
Okay. All right, can you describe what exhibit 5 is?
This looks to be my most current trademark, which was updated last year.
Okay. And do you see there, the top line, the small text, where it says Conrad Robert, DBA, This Is Reno?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you recall when this was filed?
Maybe 2023?
Okay. Do you see where it says registered in August 20th of 2024?
Yeah.
So you applied before that, it took some time to get it issued?
It took a long time to get this, yeah.
Okay. All right. And did you seek out this trademark for the same purpose as protecting the name This Is Reno?
Yes, in addition to the fact that we had a new logo, so our old logo was no longer applicable, and I believe that original 2016 trademark expired. I think it expires every maybe 5 years or so.
Okay. So has an issue with your DBA recently come to your attention?
I believe so. When we got the notice, I don't know, I can't remember if it was in August or October or November. We got the notice that there may be a concern with my standing, and we could not, to my recollection, figure out what that could be. So the only thing we thought of was that it might be the DBA issue.
Did you investigate whether you had a DBA registered with Washoe County?
I did.
Okay. And what did you do during the course of that investigation?
I searched through all my files, all my old files, to see if I had an official Washoe County DBA. I could not find any.
Okay.
So I went to the clerk's office and inquired there, and they said they couldn't find it in their system. And I said, well, would it have been filed maybe 10 years ago or something like that? And they said, well, they did get a new system at some point, but they didn't, I wasn't very clear on whether or not that would have negated my old DBA if I had one, or if there was just never one to begin with.
Okay. Do you, you incorporated your LLC in 2004 or so?
That sounds about right, yeah.
So is your memory perfectly clear about how that was done?
No.
Did you receive some assistance with doing that?
It's quite possible. I think I've had the same resident agent since we started the LLC. So it's quite possible they may have done it, but I don't know. I mean, that was 21 years ago, maybe.
So you've been a party in several public records request cases using this system, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you believe that you had did you assume you had a DBA during the course of those cases?
Correct.
Okay. So what did you do to reconcile the DBA issue?
Well, it's right here, Exhibit 6. Like I said, I went in on that day to see if the county had record of one for me, and they searched under different names that it could have been under. They couldn't find it, so I went ahead and filled out the form and got the fictitious firm name.
Okay. So I'd like you to take a look at Exhibit 1, if you could.
Yes.
Do you recognize this document, Dr. Conrad?
Yes.
What is it?
This looks to be the original public records request.
Okay. And who made this request?
I did.
Did you make this request in your own name?
Yes.
Did you make this request in the name of thisisreno.com?
No. I don't think there's any way to actually do that in their portal.
Okay. You use your thisisreno.com email address?
Yes.
So, Dr. Conrad, you're not an attorney, right?
Correct.
You're not an expert on business licensing or anything like that, right?
Correct.
But This Is Reno has been an ongoing concern for some time, correct?
An ongoing
An
one?
ongoing concern. The website has been operating for some time, correct?
Yeah, since 2009.
Okay, does the website state on it, Conrad Communications LLC?
Yeah, it should,
Okay.
yeah. It should be in there in the footer, yeah.
Okay. All right, and I'd like you to turn to Exhibit 2 if you could, Anthony. Do you recognize this document?
I do.
Okay, what is this?
This looks to be what I was provided as far as the records request
Okay,
from last year.
all right, and I don't think I've provided you with Exhibit 7 and 8, do you mind checking those?
Yes, I have these.
Okay. Do you recognize Exhibit 7? Well, do you see there at the top where it says Share of Public Records Request?
Yes,
Okay. Can you take a look at page 2 where it says customer name?
yes.
Okay. What does it say there?
It says my name and my email address.
Okay. So is this a records request you submitted to the sheriff?
Yes, that's what this looks to be.
And does the same apply to Exhibit
8?
8? Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so you're listed there. The customer name is listed as bottom line.
correct.
All right. So were these requests made for journalistic purposes?
Correct.
Okay. All right. No further questions. Thank you, Judge.
All right.
Dr. Conrad, you discussed monetizing This Is Reno. Can you describe what that means?
It means making money from the website.
How do you make money
Currently or back then?
currently?
We have a mix of, we're reader supported, so we have subscriptions, and then we have different types of advertising. And occasionally we get grants and donations.
Do you have employees or independent contractors who help run the webpage?
Yes,
And is it fair to say that This Is Reno is based in the state of Nevada?
Yes.
Turning to Exhibit 4 that Mr. Busby walked you through, that trademark registration, who did you file that with?
Well, I don't believe I filed it. I hired a firm to do it, and I'm guessing they did it from the U.S. Trademark Office.
Is it fair to say that that's a federal office?
I believe it is, yes.
And turning to Exhibit 3, the business license, who did you file that with?
City of Reno.
And turning to Exhibit 5, same question, who did you file that with?
To be the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
And then turning to Exhibit 6, that DBA filing, is this the only DBA filing that you know about?
It's the only one, hold on, Exhibit 6. Oh, here we go. Yes. All right, the only one that I can confirm.
And this current one was filed on October 24th of 2024, correct?
Correct.
And it expires in 5 years on October 24th, 2029, correct?
That's what it looks to be, yeah.
So is it fair to say that if the underlying LLC was formed in 2004, any DBA that was filed would have expired in 2009?
I'm going to object. I'll serve legal conclusion.
Sustained.
In February of 2024, you filed the petition in this case, correct?
Was it 24 or 23? Yeah, I guess it was 24.
And the petition identifies Robert Conrad, an individual doing business as This Is Reno, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, there was no registered DBA filed or fictitious firm name with the county clerk, correct?
I can't speak for the county clerk, but as I mentioned, when I went there, they couldn't find one under either Conrad Communications or This Is Reno. If I had one prior to that and it somehow expired and didn't get transferred to their new system, I would not be aware of any of that.
Did they provide any information about when that system transferred?
They may have mentioned a year, maybe, but I don't know.
Did they provide any information about whether any filings would have been lost with that system transfer?
I believe it was a fairly brief conversation, and to the best of my recollection, it went along the lines of, hey, I'm looking to see if I have a DBA, what name would it be under, and I gave them my name, I gave them Conrad Communications and This Is Reno, and I don't think they could find anything. And I said, well, is it possible that I had one and maybe it's expired? And she said, well, we did switch to switch from an older system a while ago. But since we can't find you, we'll just establish it at that time. So that's what we did.
And for this DBA filing on Exhibit 6, there's a signature in the middle. Is that your signature?
Yes,
So to file a fictitious firm name certificate with the county clerk, you would have had to sign something,
correct.
and you don't
Unless
remember.
they had something different years ago. But at least that was the case then.
You don't remember doing that prior to October of 2024?
Not to my recollection, no.
And regarding Exhibits 7 and 8, you testified earlier that the email address you used was from your This Is Reno account, correct?
Correct.
And is that because you were making the requests in your capacity as a representative of This Is Reno?
As an individual, obviously with a This Is Reno email address. Yeah,
But the requests were made for the purposes of gathering information for This Is Reno?
correct.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
And redirect, Mr. Busby.
Very well.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Conrad.
Thanks.
Mr. Busby.
All right. Judge, the evidence presented today through Dr. Conrad's testimony and the exhibits demonstrates he has standing to pursue this action under NRS 239.011. That statute expressly says that the person who's denied the request is the person who has standing to bring the case, and in this case, it's clearly Dr. Conrad. The requests themselves indicate that that's who made the request, so that's who is properly here seeking the records at issue. The county's argument about the doing business designation fails both legally and equitably, in our view. Dr. Conrad testified he made these requests in his individual capacity using his personal name. And the email method is a contact method. That doesn't imply that there's a business entity making the request. He made it in the name of Bob Conrad. I don't think anyone disputes that Bob Conrad has been operating This Is Reno for a number of years. Whether there's a technical issue with the paperwork should bear on the issue of whether or not he, in his individual capacity, is able to bring public records action under 239.011. And once again, Under NRCP 1783, if the court finds that this case was not brought in the name of the real party of interest, and the real party of interest in this case would be, of course, the person who made the public records request. The court is supposed to allow a reasonable time for ratification of amendment or substitution. We would ask for leave to do that. It's a very simple thing to do, or for leave to amend under Rule 15, which the court should liberally grant as justice so requires. And the testimony in the exhibits and the county's responses confirm sufficient interest in pursuing this matter as a journalist. And the county hasn't presented any evidence that there was a lack of a DBA, such as an executed form from a county clerk or anything like that, an affidavit saying this thing doesn't exist. What we have is testimony from the witness who says he doesn't remember it. He tried to seek it out, and there was an ambiguous answer about whether he had a DBA. So there's really no evidence on the other side. There's just an argument by implication, which is hard to rebut. It's kind of like the criminally accused having to prove they're innocent. We're trying to, Dr. Conrad is in a position where he's, he doesn't know whether there's a DBA for his testimony before the cases were filed. He sought it out, and the answer he got was ambiguous, and there's nothing on the other side saying it's a matter of fact that that doesn't exist. So we don't think the county's met their burden to provide evidence to prove that.
Thank you. Mr. Busby, could you grab the exhibits from your client, or do you need to stay with the court clerk?
Sorry.
I'm getting very nervous about those.
This is all of them? Yeah.
It looks like it's all of them. Yes, thank you. Ms. Liddel, when you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. I want to start by just putting on the record that the standing concern was something that the court had rather than the county, and so if there's any other angles of standing, I think both parties would be happy to address the court's concern. As Mr. Busby indicated, we both kind of saw the court's order requiring briefing regarding the court's concern of standing and looked at what possible issues, and it seems like both of us came to the conclusion that perhaps it was this DBA. And so one question with the DBA, because this petitioner was filed in the name of a DBA, so there's an issue of whether that's a jurisdictional barrier to maintain the action itself. And perhaps Mr. Conrad could file a different action under NRS 239 in his own name. But if that statute is jurisdictional, then the court wouldn't have jurisdiction to grant leave to amend. It would be void ab initio. So the petition itself wouldn't exist, and therefore no amendment could occur. And that issue hasn't been briefed, and I don't know from a legal standpoint if that's the case. But I know that if it is a jurisdictional requirement, and the court finds that the petitioner was in fact a DBA, then leave to amend would not be appropriate in that sense. Another question is, who is the requester in this case? And as Mr. Busby pointed out, NRS 239's purposes are to foster democratic principles, and Washoe County understands that, and also understands that it's to be construed broadly. And the identity of a requester, who can be a requester, things like that are not defined. And so I think I would have a tough time arguing that Mr. Conrad as an individual wouldn't have standing himself to file some kind of action for these requests. The identity of the requester and what they intend to do with any of the information or things like that is not really relevant to the court's analysis as far as standing. It's just who made the request. And in that case, it seems like the legislature has created some statutory standing for requesters to seek court relief. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And like I said, we're both kind of just guessing at what exact concern the court might have. So thank you, Your Honor.
I think my current concerns have been answered, so thank you, Ms. Liddel, and thank you, Mr. Busby. I am going to take it under consideration. I will get an order out to you within the next week. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Thank you,
All rise.